Hey guys, Dimension Jump, and today we're reviewing Persona 5, which was released back in 2016 for the PlayStations 4 and 3. Now, for Persona 5, the main plot is that you're this group called the Phantom Thieves, and you go about changing the hearts of criminals, and you play the main character or the main protagonist called, depending on if you're reading the manga or playing the game, Ren Amamiya or Akira. I've forgotten the name of the manga version of the main character for the manga of Persona 5, but there are two names for the main character of Persona 5, and Ren Amamiya is, I think, the more common one, I would say. And he is at the start of the game, he is shown to have a criminal record for something he didn't do, and then he later becomes a member of the Phantom Thieves. And I do enjoy this plot because at the start of the game, you're given a glimpse into the future of the Phantom Thieves doing one of their heists that goes wrong, and then you're later kidnapped and you're forced to tell, or to basically explain, all of your other heists that you've done up until that point. And this is, I think that's a nice way of explaining the game, but during the first time I played Persona 5, it did get a bit boring a couple of times, because every so often you would go back into the place where you would be talking about your heists, and you would it'll do that a couple of times, and I feel like it's a bit forced, I would say, because like it kind of takes away from me just playing the game, I would say, and just I just wanted to continue playing the game and just have a fun time. Now, the characters, I would say, are quite fun and quite interesting to talk to, because you can talk to a variety of characters. So you've got Ryuji, who's one of the first characters that you meet in the game. You've got Morgana, who claims he's a human, but he's a cat. He's a cat though who thinks he's a human, basically. You've got Arn, and you've got who's basically the well known for her looks. And you've got a variety of other characters that you meet along the way in the game, and each character brings their own personality and their own style to the game, and I think it's really cool and interesting. And now it's time for some gameplay. Now, when it comes to the gameplay for Persona 5, there are various things you can do in the game. So like, right now I'm in a place called Mementos, which is basically the game's version of a place you can go to grind and level up. Now, with Mementos, you can basically just go around and basically after I think every palace that you face and every one that you beat, you'll expand Mementos more. I think it's a cool way of just adding new stuff to the area and having you go back to the place and just go through each area. Now, I would say that when it comes to Mementos, you do it as like you keep coming back to it every time you defeat a palace, mainly because of the final boss in this game. Because like this is like connected to the final boss, which I won't spoil, and when it comes to the final boss, you have to go through Mementos, and if you don't go back to Mementos regularly, you will be forced to go through all of the Mementos before you go to the final boss. So I would say when it does come to Mementos, you do it every so often, and you expand the area and you get further down the depths. Now, what I do like about Mementos is that you can go, just like in the palaces, you can go to specific areas. So let's go with this one, the common place, or the most recent place I've unlocked in the game. And then we can either go up or down. So let's say we just go down for now, and
what I like about Mementos, I think another thing that I find really cool and interesting, is that one, each area that you go to in terms of the new areas you can go are all like different, and two, each area each floor that you go to that isn't a restroom is different. So each room that you go to is completely different. So yeah, and you can also like just go about and find the exit. Now, with what you just saw, one of Futaba's things that you can get from a confidant is that she can help you get, for some of the floors, get an entire layout of the map. And I think that's really cool, and you can see like where all the stuff is, like chests, and stuff like that, and any extra areas, but it won't show you like the shadows. So for here, it does tell you shadows, like the red dots, but I don't think when you first like enter Mementos, they'll tell you what exactly they are. So yeah, and I like how you can just like go to a specific level and just grind up, and yeah, so for your attack you just basically summon a persona and you just do that, and depending on which shadow you face, depends on like if you can hit their weaknesses or not, which I think is quite nice. And yeah, and also I'm gonna just wait around in this area for a bit, because there's a shadow that can only be found in Mementos, that is called the Reaper. Now the Reaper is a shadow that's like a very powerful and strong one, mainly because it's just like, you know, that's our sort of optional boss you can do in the game whenever you do go to Mementos. And in Persona 5 specifically, there is a way of basically just fighting it without having to fight it, if that makes sense, because I think on specific days of the game, I think like during the end of the game, on some of those days, there's flu season, which is the day I'm on now, and flu season means that all of the shadows that you will encounter will have despair. Now despair is a thing that I think makes the shadow succumb to despair, I think, within a few turns. Now Persona 5, that includes the Reaper, and the Reaper will be here in I think a bit. So yeah, so I can show you like hopefully how despair works on the Reaper. And also what I like about the Reaper is that it gives you a lot of experience, and I think that's quite fun and interesting to like see like this shadow being powerful. Obviously is the one that gives you the most experience, and the one thing that, you know, that in order to wait for the Reaper, you have to like get to find the Reaper. You do have to try and get to him, is to wait for him on a specific area, which can take a while, which I think is quite long. I think it's about a minute or so. Not 100% sure, but yeah. And also, if you want to heal your allies, press the square button, which is quite nice. And also, when it comes to your personas, you can make multiple personas. Like I think you can make up to 12 personas at a time, which I think is quite nice, because you're not given like a specific. You're not given like you're not given like, you know, one persona when it comes to the main character. You're given multiple personas, which I think is quite nice, because then you can just change personas on the fly when it comes to exploiting a shadow's weakness, which I think is quite nice. And yeah, I think like, you know, it's really cool to see like how you can use personas on the fly when it comes to battling shadows or fighting bosses. Okay, so now we're going to fight the Reaper, and now the Reaper is basically, when we find it, there it is. So, is that one? I don't know. It might be that one. So yeah, that's the Reaper. It's basically this giant bandage cloth shadow with guns. So yeah, so when it comes to fighting the Reaper with despair, or I'm trying to find it, it will take you a couple of tries to do this. To fight it with despair, because it might not be like instant, because like there are some times where I have fought the Reaper and it's been instant with it having despair, and it will take you a couple of turns in order to try and get with the despair. So yeah, and it hits hard. It hits hard. Yeah, it's like I think it's like a really tough boss that optional boss that you can do if you want to get like more experience and level up your team quickly. And I would say if you do want to face the Reaper and get more experience, I would say fight it on the 13th and like 14th and on some other dates as well. I don't exactly remember which other dates the Reaper can be. No, wait, which is flu season. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully when next time it's spare, so I can show you like how despair works. Hopefully. Yeah. And there it is. And it has a good despair. So I will cut here and wait until the Reaper gets despair. So I've managed to get the Reaper having despair. So when the Reaper does have despair, always block. I think I'm not 100% sure why. It's just like I think it's so that it doesn't get out despair or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. But with despair, it will lose SP. Whenever an enemy or any of your party does have despair. So I would say, yeah, always despair. And also, now that after a few turns, the Reaper has now been defeated, and you get 72,050 experience, which is quite a lot. And then money, you get 3,570 yen, which is reasonable. I can kind of see why the Reaper would only give you a lot of experience and not that much money, because it's a very strong shadow, and I think the stronger an enemy is in an RPG, the more experience your team will get. So I can't see why the Reaper will give you more experience than it will give you money, and then it will give you an item called Divine Pillar, and then your team will level up. But I think depending on which level they are at, will depend on how far you will gain experience. Because if you're like, let's say level 60 or 50, you'll be boosted up to like level 70 or 80 because of how much experience that the Reaper will give. And then you'll also be given, your party members will also be given, some of the moves that they can learn for their own personas, and you can also fuse more personas that you the main player can fuse. I think it's cool. And now let's go to a higher area, because now I'm going to show you the normal day-to-day life of Joker when you're not fighting shadows in palaces or mementos. So yeah. Oh, I should probably quickly show you the Velvet Room quickly, because the Velvet Room is quite interesting because of how you can fuse personas together and stuff like that. So when you enter the Velvet Room, you have a variety of things to do. So you can create personas, summon personas or register them in the compendium, or train personas in the lockdown. Now you can only I think unlock the lockdown during the strength confidant for the twins, and you can also access some of these things like the item persona, strengthen personas, and I think these personas through the course of the game because of how they are used. Now you can either choose 2 more personas, 3 personas, like, you know, several personas you can like choose randomly, and so on and so forth. So let's say I want to make Attis, let's say. I can then choose which moves I can have for a specific persona. So let's have concentrate. Let's say Megalodon. This curse move and curse amp. So go ahead, and then you're given this animation of the personas being fused together, which I think is quite cool because of how it's shown to you in the game. So yeah, that's how personas are fused together if you want to get new, more powerful personas, which I think is quite nice and fun. And then you're given like a little description of the personas that have been fused, the main persona that you fuse together from the other two personas or other personas that you have collected. And then they will level up, and then you'll be given like, you know, some moves. So let's what's this one? Let's get rid of that one. Drink curse. You know what? Let's yeah, concentrate. Let's get rid of concentrate, and then you have that persona on your person, as a persona you can use, and I think it's quite nice. And you can also look at its background, which is a god who symbolises life, death, and revival, which is quite nice, because I do like how each persona has their own description of their own thing, and yeah.
Are you finished?
Now, yes, now it's time to show you some things you can do outside of palaces and mementos. So, head back, yep. And I do like how after you beat like a palace or mementos, you're given like a description of what you did, which I think is quite nice. I think it's nice because you can see how far you are in a specific thing. Now, when it comes to doing stuff outside of mementos and palaces, you can do things, you know, at night and stuff like that. But when it comes to a palace or mementos, you can't do anything. You have to go back. Like, I think you have to go back and sleep. But when it comes to the Temperance Confidant, which is Kawakami's confidant that you unlock, you can do extra stuff at night, which I think is quite nice. So now that I've got that, I can now just go and just do any of the confidants that I might have done. So that's been it for the gameplay. Now time to go back to the review.
Now, like with the other Persona games in the series, Persona 5 lets you have different social links, or in Persona 5's case, confidants. And confidants are basically social events that you have with your friends, and they have their own storylines within the game. So, for example, with Ryuji, he wants to try and make amends with the track team, because he went against the PE teacher, who's one of the main people, evildoers in the game that you go against, and he just wants to try and make amends with them. And what I like about these confidants is that each confidant person that you go to all have their own abilities that you can unlock with them. So with the main Phantom Thieves themselves, they have stuff like helping teammates get over status ailments, they can live on 1 HP, they can help protect Joker from certain attacks, that sort of thing. And then with the non-party members, they can give you stuff like giving you more XP in battle, giving you better items to use in battles, and that sort of thing, and that's really cool and interesting. And the main dungeons themselves are called palaces, and within the palaces you can use the personas that you gain along the way to basically fight off the shadows. And what I like about the palaces is that each one is different, and each one feels new and varied, and they just don't feel like, oh, the same thing in the game. And what I like about the palaces is that they're based on the 7 deadly sins, so like lust, greed, vanity, that kind of thing. And then there's also the main, I would say, grinding section, or main dungeon of the game, that being Mementos. Now, Mementos is basically a palace where you can go to level up, and then once you do from the Phantom Thieves is where you can go to take a quest to change the hearts of other people, and it is also the main place where you have to go to for end game story related stuff, which I won't spoil because I think that's really, I think if you're experiencing Persona 5 or Persona 5 Royal for the first time, I would say I don't want to spoil the end game for anyone, but I think the end game is really cool and enjoyable because of how it kind of intersects with the main story. And yeah, I think Mementos, in Persona 5 especially, is okay, but I think the Mementos in Persona 5 Royal, which I'll talk about next week, is a lot better. And yeah, I think overall Persona 5 is a decent Persona game. I think it's really fun and enjoyable to play around as a Phantom Thieves, and just having a fun time just playing through the story and just experiencing everything in the game. And when Persona 6 does come out, I will hopefully if there is one that is announced, I would obviously play that game as well. And I would say Persona 5 is decent. It's really enjoyable. I would highly suggest people go out and play it. I would say probably either Persona 5 or Persona 5 Royal, depending on how you feel. And so yeah, that's been my review for Persona 5. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.